Ararat is not easy to access. Located in eastern Turkey, close to the borders of Armenia and Iran, the region is politically volatile and often dangerous.
High above the shifting borders of Turkey, Armenia, and Iran, Mount Ararat rises through drifting weather like a vault built from ice and silence, guarding something that has unsettled governments for decades. When reconnaissance images revealed geometric shadows beneath its glaciers, the mountain's story changed, drawing scientists, analysts, and rival states into a mystery none of them were prepared to inherit. A mountain wrapped in secrecy. Mount Ararat dominates a landscape where geography and politics collide, creating a region defined by sensitive borders, overlapping claims, and a long history of strategic caution. Its slopes overlook the junction of Turkey, Armenia, and Iran, placing the mountain in a zone that military planners have monitored for generations, largely because any unexpected activity here carries implications far beyond its ridgelines. Authorities maintain tight control over airspace and ground access, not only to manage security concerns, but also to regulate movement in an area where international tensions can shift rapidly. These controls have shaped how researchers approach Ararat, forcing them to navigate a maze of permits, restricted corridors, and sudden closures before they can even begin to confront the formidable terrain. The mountain's physical environment adds another layer of complexity, since its steep volcanic flanks funnel storms that frequently blanket the region in dense fog, high winds, and unpredictable icefall. Despite these natural and political barriers, modern imaging technologies have revealed something deeply unusual near its upper elevations, where the glacier conceals a structure whose linear boundaries sharply contrast with the surrounding geology. While legends have long circulated about unusual forms hidden in the ice, contemporary analysts frame the anomaly as a scientific and strategic question rather than a religious one, because its elegant symmetry raises possibilities that transcend folklore. This convergence of secrecy, natural power, and inexplicable geometry establishes the foundation for an investigation that continues to challenge conventional assumptions. Cold War, eyes in the sky. The modern story began in 1949, when American reconnaissance aircraft, tasked with routine Cold War surveillance, captured a series of images that analysts struggled to categorize. Among the mountain's chaotic ice fields, one photograph revealed a dark, elongated form whose proportions differed sharply from the fractured terrain surrounding it. At a time when every meter of this border zone carried strategic significance, the discovery prompted immediate classification because officials feared the photographs might represent either an undisclosed installation or an unexpected intelligence vulnerability. For decades, the images remained sealed inside archival collections, fueling speculation among researchers who suspected that officials were withholding information not for mythological reasons, but for concerns tied directly to national security. The mystery deepened in 1974 when an early KH-11 satellite recorded thermal infrared signatures on Ararat's northwestern slope that defied geological expectations. Instead of the diffuse patterns typically associated with ice or exposed basalt, the satellite detected stable heat signatures outlining what appeared to be a hollow insulated structure with consistent internal temperature retention. Intelligence officers labeled the anomaly as non-geological and placed it under strict handling protocols normally reserved for sensitive military sites. Although no definitive explanation emerged, the thermal data suggested an object whose composition and geometry justified further investigation, even if political realities prevented open inquiry. These revelations reshaped the conversation around the anomaly because they positioned the mountain not as a repository of ancient legend, but as a location where classified technology had detected something that did not conform to known natural formations. The Cold War's demand for secrecy ensured that few outside select agencies learned of these findings, yet the implications quietly influenced future attempts to revisit the site. Footprints in the ice. Long before satellites traced geometric lines beneath the glacier, explorers struggled across Ararat's upper slopes and returned with accounts that challenged expectations about what should exist at such extreme altitudes. In the 19th century, early scientific ascents documented conditions so harsh that even hardy vegetation could not survive, which made the discovery of large worked wooden beams at more than 4,000 meters particularly perplexing. These beams showed clear signs of deliberate shaping, and the resin embedded within their fibers suggested a method of preservation uncommon in structures exposed to centuries of ice. For researchers accustomed to studying glacial transport and volcanic debris, the material evidence contradicted familiar geological processes, encouraging further attempts to understand how such artifacts could have reached this environment without human intervention. Local herders offered stories passed down through generations, describing summers when the melting ice revealed dark, curved surfaces protruding from the glacier. While these accounts varied, many referenced structural patterns rather than mythic imagery, which motivated early 20th century expeditions to search for additional material traces. Some explorers reported hearing hollow reverberations beneath thin ice sheets, while others claimed to observe symmetrical shadows inconsistent with natural rock formations. Although such testimonies were anecdotal, they aligned with physical fragments collected on the slopes. The nearby Darupanar formation added another dimension to the debate, because its elongated shape and internal soil composition prompted disagreement among geologists and independent researchers. Some interpreted its layered contours as the result of mud flows interacting with bedrock, while others argued that the distribution of metal signatures and carbon content indicated remnants of an engineered structure. The tension between these interpretations reflected broader questions about how to evaluate rare anomalies in a landscape shaped by extreme forces. Technology reveals what the eye cannot. Advances in remote sensing technology transformed the investigation by allowing researchers to probe areas where human access remained nearly impossible. High-resolution satellite imagery revealed subtle linear features embedded within the glacier that persisted across multiple imaging passes, which reduced the likelihood that they were mere artifacts of light or seasonal melting. Radar instruments, capable of penetrating dense layers of ice, detected irregular density zones arranged in patterns that suggested compartmentalization rather than random fracture. These readings encouraged scientists to construct three-dimensional models of the anomaly, and the resulting reconstructions displayed angular boundaries that contrasted sharply with the chaotic distribution of surrounding volcanic material. Attempts to verify these findings on the ground encountered formidable logistical challenges, since the most promising survey sites lay along unstable ridges where sudden storms frequently trapped climbing teams. Access restrictions imposed by regional authorities further complicated efforts, requiring researchers to navigate a lengthy approval process that could be halted without explanation. Even when permits were granted, the requirement that teams carry lightweight, portable instruments limited the depth and precision of their measurements, leaving many questions unresolved. Despite these constraints, one expedition in 2010 made significant progress when members entered an ice cave at high altitude and recovered fragments of ancient cedar. Laboratory analysis confirmed an age of roughly 4,800 years, raising new scientific questions about how such material reached an environment where the species had never grown. Researchers emphasized that the discovery did not confirm any specific narrative, yet it introduced a data point that resisted simple geological interpretation. These technological and material insights collectively expanded the investigation beyond folklore, grounding it instead within a framework driven by measurable evidence and analytical uncertainty. The uneasy question of ownership. As new findings accumulated, the anomaly on Ararat shifted from a scientific puzzle to a matter intertwined with national identity and geopolitical leverage. Turkey administers the mountain and enforces strict control over its slopes, which positions the state as the primary gatekeeper of any future research or discovery. Officials argue that security considerations justify these measures, particularly because the region remains sensitive due to its proximity to multiple borders and ongoing diplomatic tensions. Armenia, however, views Ararat as a cultural symbol deeply embedded in its history, and many citizens interpret any restriction on access as an attempt to limit participation in a heritage that extends far beyond modern boundaries. This divide fuels debate about who should oversee an investigation that could influence tourism, academic prestige, and regional influence. International scientific organizations have occasionally proposed collaborative expeditions, but political circumstances complicate the prospect of shared stewardship. The potential identification of an artificial structure, regardless of its origin, raises questions about sovereignty, preservation rights, and the responsibilities associated with managing a site of exceptional historical interest. Recent policy shifts in Turkey, including expanded military oversight and tighter regulation of airspace, reflect an awareness that even partial confirmation of the anomaly's significance could reshape local and global narratives about the mountain. These dynamics underscore how evidence buried beneath a glacier can influence relationships among neighboring states, drawing them into subtle competition over a discovery that none of them fully understand. The present moment. Recent climate patterns have altered the pace of glacial retreat on Ararat, exposing layers of terrain that remain concealed for generations, and providing researchers with intermittent glimpses of features once hidden beneath solid ice. Seasonal thawing now reveals sections of the anomaly with greater clarity, although the instability of melting surfaces limits opportunities for direct examination. Independent analysts, equipped with commercial satellite tools, have begun documenting these changes through continuous imaging, building data sets that track subtle shifts in shape and reflectivity across consecutive seasons. Their work suggests that the glacier's transformation is accelerating, which increases the likelihood that more structural details will emerge without requiring intrusive excavation. Governments have responded cautiously to this trend, aware that newly exposed formations could intensify debates surrounding ownership, interpretation, and scientific responsibility. Restricted zones remain firmly enforced, and drone activity is monitored closely, especially along the northwestern plateau where the anomaly has been repeatedly observed. Yet the natural processes unfolding on the mountain operate beyond administrative control, inching the surface closer to a moment when evidence once buried by time and temperature may become visible to anyone watching. This convergence of environmental change and scientific anticipation shapes the present phase of the investigation. What the evidence really suggests. Taken together, the physical fragments, satellite signatures, radar anomalies, and shifting ice fields form a body of evidence that invites multiple interpretations rather than a single definitive conclusion. Geologists who emphasize natural explanations point to the mountain's history of eruptions, landslides, and glacial deformation, arguing that rare combinations of pressure and erosion can produce shapes that imitate deliberate design. Researchers who focus on archaeological or structural possibilities note that the geometric consistency detected across independent surveys exceeds what they would expect from coincidental fracture patterns. Intelligence analysts treat the anomaly as a phenomenon worthy of continued observation, primarily because Cold War data demonstrated properties inconsistent with ordinary geology. What emerges from these perspectives is a portrait of uncertainty, shaped by measurable clues, divergent expertise, and the limitations imposed by a landscape that resists thorough investigation. The question persists because the evidence resists easy dismissal. If the mountain finally reveals what lies beneath its ice, the discovery will challenge everything we assume about history and power. Stay curious, follow the unfolding evidence, and join the search for answers that nature is slowly bringing into view.